When you enter a classroom in the Ozarks, you can often see learning objectives posted on the wall or up on the blackboard. These objectives are called standards. For example, all third graders should be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Standards have been around for 20 years, and so they've always been the kind of the guideposts for what we want students to learn and be successful in.
All in all, I would say it has gotten better because we're not just picking and choosing what we would like to do in the classroom or in our district. We're trying to be more cohesive.
It's best to think of education standards as a foundation. They support teachers' lesson plans, standardized test questions, and many other building blocks within the educational system. In 1983, President Reagan's administration released a report called A Nation at Risk, which showed schools were failing. Then George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton teamed up to create Goals 2000, a broad set of school performance targets which encouraged states to create standards throughout the 1990s. The stakes increased in 2002 when President George W. Bush signed No Child Left Behind into law. The law required states to have standards and test kids over them in reading and math each year from 3rd through 8th grade.
There was a better focus on teaching and learning and what we wanted kids to be successful with. I think there was also a new level of accountability.
Under No Child Left Behind, all kids were supposed to be proficient in reading and math by 2014. If schools didn't make adequate yearly progress, they had to set aside some of their federal money for tutoring. And if problems continued, students could transfer to another school.
It becomes your kids don't get these standards, then your school gets a bad grade. And the public sees my school versus my next door neighbor's school.
The downside of it, of No Child Left Behind, is it created really a culture of compliance. It created a culture of control, that every kid is going to jump through this same hoop at the exact same time.
Learning is about so much more than just filling in the right bubble.
Seeing 100% proficiency as an unrealistic target, President Obama started granting states a reprieve from No Child Left Behind's rules in 2011. Around this time, the National Governors Association and National Council of Chief State School Officers partnered to create Common Core for English and math. To get a waiver from No Child Left Behind, states had to demonstrate they had solid standards, and the Obama administration said it would accept Common Core. The United States has been the world's dominant economic power for the better part of a century. But employers and elected officials are increasingly worried about the pool of skilled labor needed to keep the machine going.
That's a lot of what we hear from employers when we talk to them, is that in some cases they're competing more fiercely for talent than they even are for customers.
The National Governors Association and National Council of Chief State School Officers created Common Core in 2009 with one goal: prepare students for college and careers. Microsoft founder Bill Gates became one of the biggest vocal and financial supporters of the standards. Missouri's Education Department adopted Common Core in 2010 with hopes it would get students to think deeper.
There's also parts of the Common Core that did increase rigor. That's contentious. That statement's contentious. But we did ask students to do more evaluate and analyze than we just did recall and remember.
In English, the Common Core places a greater emphasis on nonfiction over literature. In math, students are asked to apply concepts generally to solve an array of problems.
We didn't expect kindergartners to be writing full sentences. Now we're asking them to do that, and you walk down the hallways and there's tons of evidence. Man, kindergarten kids can write.
We got really good at using evidence to support our thinking in our writing and in our reading.
Common Core also became a common vocabulary for educators all across the country. School districts will test students over the Common Core this spring, but next year, Common Core is out. Lawmakers reacted to statewide controversy over Common Core by passing legislation to replace it with a new set of standards next school year. Educators are divided on whether Common Core set realistic expectations for students.
What was particularly upsetting to me was the requirement that students leave kindergarten being able to write a paragraph and read, because that is developmentally inappropriate.
I don't know if there really was anything that would just be stated our children couldn't do. Stop Common Core!
Communities became divided when people learned districts began using the ready-made standards with little input from school boards, parents, and teachers.
When you look at who the partners are who are funding this, it's not your individual entrepreneurs from localities who are undermining the freedom of their neighbors. It's international corporations who basically want to standardize everything to make their lives easier.